JJ, welcome back to Breakdown. Today is Monday, November 29th. JJ, last weekend was by far the best weekend for college football this season. So many great games. We could talk about that one really great game played in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where Arkansas defeated uh, Missouri. But we're going to talk about a lot of other games. We're going to begin the game today. I want to begin with hail to the victors. That can only mean U of M. Wolverines destroyed Ohio State over the weekend, JJ. They were an 8-point underdog. They won pretty handily. Did Michigan overachieve or did Ohio State underachieve?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think, actually, looking at some of the stats from it, I don't think either one of those things necessarily happened.
Okay.
I think the better team won.
Whoa. That's interesting. The better team being the Michigan Wolverines.
I do think that they were the better team.
Okay. Okay, JJ. Well, in one word, describe U of M's win.
Ooh, cathartic?
I would not have chosen that word, but elaborate, please, sir.
Well, it had been 10 years since the last time Michigan had bested Ohio State. 8 games. They didn't play last year. Ohio State was on an 8-game winning streak.
Okay.
And this is a rivalry that's supposed to be the best rivalry in college football. It's supposed to be balanced. It's supposed to be two titans of the sport going at it. And for the past 17 years before this game, Ohio State had won 16.
Okay.
So it was not like that at all. I mean, I can only imagine how much of a release that would have been, for people that are truly, really invested in Michigan's program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, why did Michigan win?
They controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Ohio State had 0 tackles for loss. Michigan had 8 tackles for loss.
Wow.
4 sacks, 3 of which came from Aiden Hutchinson, who also had the most amount of pressures since. Well, this is via Pro Football Focus. They've been recording college stats since 2014, and he had the most pressures in a game since they started recording that stat. He had 15 pressures.
I had predicted that he would have a good game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, just the line of scrimmage. How many false starts was it for Ohio State? Was it 4?
It was either 3 or 4.
Yeah, 4 false starts. That's half a sack. I mean, that's the down doesn't change, but you're backing them up. And I just think.
Well, I'll give you the answer why Michigan won. The answer, they had no choice. They had to win. They knew that last year that they had to win this game, and they started preparing for it. And one thing is for sure, you could rest assured, Michigan would not go into this game unprepared. They were going to be prepared. They had to. It's like when you fight in a battle back in the old days, you sail onto this island and then you burn the boat. And then the captain of the boat say, only way we're going to get back is if we win. Michigan, their backs were against the wall. And when you got your back against the wall, I mean, you're going to fight. And there was no quit in that team. And their backs were against the wall. It was, in a way, do or die for them. So they had no choice but to win that game.
Well, I think that's a little Pollyanna. I think.
Okay, call it that.
I mean, I can respect that though, but I think that the preparation was definitely it. But I do think that they were better. I think the line of scrimmage. I just believe that they were better, and I'm so unused to seeing Ohio State.
No one would have said that an hour before the game. No one would have said Michigan was the better team.
Yeah, it's 16-17.
Okay. And you probably answered the question that I'm about to ask you now. You probably already answered it, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's something I had thought to ask you, and that is, why was Michigan able to run the ball so well, and Michigan State was not? Well, but just answer why Michigan was.
Michigan has, if not the best offensive line in the country, they have one of the top 5 best offensive lines in the country. That was a strength I knew that they would have going in.
So that mean they would have been able to pass protect as well. Quarterback can sit back in the pocket all day.
Well, I mean, McNamara only threw it 20 times.
Okay.
Oh no, he threw it 19 times. JJ McCarthy threw it in the other one time, but he didn't get sacked. None of the quarterbacks took a sack.
But the reason they were able to run the ball so well, does it have anything to do with Ohio State's defense?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with Ohio State's defense.
Talk to me.
They don't have the talent that they normally have. I think this is the type of year, regardless of what happened in the Michigan game, where there's going to be a lot of turnover in the defensive coaching staff for Ohio State. I've said it a couple times. There were no Nick or Joey Bosa's. There was no Chase Young.
I have heard you say that before.
Yeah, they didn't have. They had a lot of talented players, but even their 5 stars, like their offensive line struggled, but their offensive line was full of 5 stars. Their defensive line, I think, had a lower star rating than that. I think they just didn't have the talent that they normally have.
Well, JJ, the whole world was expecting Ohio State to win, and a lot of people were expecting Ohio State to win in a blowout win. At what point in the game did you realize that it was not going to be a blowout win for the Buckeyes?
When JJ McCarthy threw that pass, that 31-yard completion, with 8:19 left.
That was his only attempt, right?
It was only attempt. He did run the ball in another play, but that was when I realized that it wouldn't be a blowout. I still think that they could have lost that game because a similar thing happened the week prior, or not the week prior, 2 weeks prior against Michigan State, where Michigan went up 30. Did they go up 30-14 on Michigan State? Right before the end of the third quarter, Michigan went up 30-14.
Okay.
And Michigan still lost the game.
Yeah.
So Michigan still could have lost to Ohio State, but once they were in the red zone driving to go up 28-13 on Ohio State, that's when I realized Michigan might lose, but they weren't going to get blown out.
Okay.
Because even at halftime when it was 14-13, Ohio State had just kicked that field goal.
Yeah.
I think that they had a little bit of momentum. There was that scuffle in the tunnel that got, I think, both teams a little hype.
Okay, JJ, so you say the better team won. If these teams were to play each other in Columbus, had they been playing in Columbus Saturday, who would have won that game?
I think Michigan would have won that game.
Okay.
But I don't want to mitigate the importance of the crowd noise in Michigan. I think that they were valuable. I think that was an animated crowd that believed that they could win.
Okay. You know what? Had Michigan capitalized on their opportunities, Michigan could have created all kinds of style points in that game and just blew it open. That interception in the first quarter in the red zone.
The only turnover of the game.
Where Michigan had they didn't get any points out of that. They could have gotten some points. And also in the second quarter, an interception in the red zone hit Michigan player right in the hand, and he dropped it. And Ohio State, I think they got a field goal out of that. Those points had they gone the other way, had Michigan capitalized on those opportunities, Michigan would maybe have dominated the game. And another area where Ohio State was very, very impressive and where Michigan couldn't get off the field was on 4th down. Not 3rd down, but on 4th down. Michigan couldn't get off the field. Ohio State went for it 4 times on 4th down. They made it 3 times. It was 4th and 4 to start the 4th quarter. Ohio State made that, converted into a 1st down. And still in the 4th quarter, it was 4th and 7. They were at Michigan's 27-yard line. The score was 20-35, and there's about 6 minutes to go in the game. 4th and 7. Michigan to hold them is a whole new world, but Ohio State made it.
Well, Michigan was actually more impressive on their fourth down conversion success rate.
Okay, what was theirs?
It was 100%. They were 1 for 1. They had all of 1 4th down, and there was only 8 third downs for Michigan
Okay.
versus 18 third downs and 4 fourth downs for Ohio State.
All right. I still say I'd rather be 3 for 4 on 4th down than 1 for 1.
I would not, because I wouldn't want to have to go for it 4 times on 4th down.
Well, I'm just saying, I think Michigan had an opportunity to really blow the game away, and they let them convert those 4th downs. No, and then the interception, and then the interception that Michigan did not get. But JJ, you said that Michigan did not overachieve, but I want to ask you, which unit impressed you more from the Wolverines? Was it their offensive unit or their defensive unit?
That's such a tough question. Well, I mean, their defensive unit did hold Ohio State to their lowest rushing output in over a decade. They only had 64 yards rushing, which the last time they did that was earlier in 2011. So, I mean, the defensive line was pretty dominant in that respect. Also, Hutchinson and Ojo with the 4 sacks, and then all of the pressures. That was incredibly impressive, but the offensive line was equally impressive. I mean, they were able to get the edge. Michigan got the edge whenever they wanted. It was just they literally did not have a negative play. Like, they did not get 1 tackle for loss. Ohio State did not have 1 tackle for loss. And I believe Haskins had 100 yards before contact, like, total in that game. I think he had like 164 yards total, but he had 100 of those yards before contact. So I just think that's a level of dominance that I just wasn't expecting Michigan to be able to have again. I mean, they didn't display that against Michigan State even. I mean, they,
Okay. Well, I think they prepared.
They were very prepared.
This one. You touched on this earlier, JJ. I want to mention the crowd noise. At one point in the game, and I think it may have ended up this way, Ohio State had 10 penalties for 66 yards, and Michigan had 2 penalties for 20 yards. How much of that do you think the crowd had to do with those penalties?
I think it had a lot to do with it. I think Michigan's edge rushers and the crowd had a lot to do with those penalties for sure. Michigan, I've been to the Big House a few times, not in a while though.
Okay.
But that, I mean, just hearing on the screen was overwhelming. Michigan has a reputation of kind of being like the docile, mild-mannered museum type of crowds, and they were anything but that. Also, Ohio State normally has a much more significant contingent of fan base represented, and they were not there. Like, it was,
they couldn't get the tickets.
Yeah, that was that was impressive. Like, that was a Michigan crowd that believed that they had the opportunity to win, and that's not always the case. I mean, I've watched many a Michigan Ohio State game where before the kickoff even starts, all you see is red. All you see is these nervous faces.
During the Rich Rod days, I remember seeing Ohio State fans. I went to a game during Rich Rod tenure there, and there was more scarlet dressed people there than maize and blue almost. But okay, JJ, we pretty much talked on the Michigan Ohio State game. Let's talk about the college football playoff. As of right now, JJ, there are 2 major undefeated teams in Georgia and Cincinnati, and there are 4 major one-loss teams, that being Michigan, Oklahoma State, Alabama, and Notre Dame. So together that's 6 teams. 2 of those teams will not be able to make it to the playoff. Which 2 teams do you think are least likely to make it to the college football playoff?
I think, well, for the least likely team is Alabama. Okay. They already have 2 losses. They're gonna go up against
Say that again. We're talking about 1-loss teams right now. Alabama has 1 loss.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. When they lose to Georgia, they will have two
all right.
losses. I'm
Okay.
sorry about that.
Okay.
But they're playing the best team in the country. They haven't looked impressive whatsoever. They, in all honesty, should have lost to Auburn a few times in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
Arkansas had opportunities to beat them. LSU had opportunities to beat them. So Alabama, I think, is the least likely team to make it.
But you got to pick two.
And the other team that I would say is least likely to make it, I mean, I think it depends on the status of Baylor's quarterback. If Jerry Bohannon is healthy, I would say that the other team least likely to make it would be Oklahoma State because they have one more game to play, which they could lose. Unlike Notre Dame, which Notre Dame is done.
And see, for that particular reason, I'm picking Alabama and Notre Dame as least likely to making it. And the reason I picked Notre Dame as least likely to make it is because...
So you think Baylor will not beat Oklahoma State?
Absolutely, I do.
I think if Jerry Bohannon plays, Baylor will win.
Okay. But that's my pick.
Do you know if Bohannon's playing?
I do not know. Okay. JJ, if I were to have said to you a couple of weeks ago that the college football playoff would be without Clemson, without Ohio State, without Alabama, and without Oklahoma, what would you have said?
Sign me up. We got March Madness in December, it sounds like, to January.
So those four teams, that's typically at least one or two of those teams are there every year. Is it good for college football that potentially none of those four teams will be there? Is it good or
Absolutely,
bad for college?
it's good. I think dynasties are good, but also change is good as well. And I think dynasty was getting a little stale.
Okay.
So.
Okay, JJ, let's talk about some other games played last week. And I said last week was, to me, was the best week of college football this year. There was the Iron Bowl, 4 overtime, Alabama winning by 2. Any thoughts on that game at all?
I just think that Bryce Young probably captured the Heisman with that one. He
that
still finished.
That comeback win?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama was not particularly impressive, but I think Bryce was impressive.
Okay.
He was resilient. He was steady, poised. He threw for over 300, no picks, 2 touchdowns. He was good, but that was not what I would consider to be a good game.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was a great game.
It would have been a great game had the different team won. But
it was a great game. Let's talk about some weird games. Iowa defeating Nebraska. Nebraska had a 21-6 lead in that game, and they lost to Iowa 28-21. Nebraska, I think I read somewhere where Nebraska had no. They have lost 8 or 9 games by single digits. They be in the game, they just cannot put them away. What do you think about that game? And what do you think about Iowa's chances against Michigan this coming Saturday?
The Nebraska game was just a rerun of every other game that they played this season. They need to change up that coaching staff. There's enough talent for them to compete, but there's clearly issues which prevent them from closing. But I mean, yeah, they've beaten one Big Ten team all year, and that was Northwestern, who was atrocious. But even though they're 1-8 in Big Ten conference play, their point differential is 0. So they should have been 500 team.
Better.
Yeah. So that lets you know that something is amiss there.
Well, Michigan
and Nebraska was with their backup quarterback too.
I know. Michigan is a 10.5 point favorite against Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa's a poor man's Michigan. They're Michigan with worse players. I'd say with a worse quarterback, a less dynamic run game.
Okay.
In a worse
So you picking Michigan to win that game easily?
I don't know about how easily. I'm not sure if they cover, but I think Michigan is better than Iowa. I think there are at least 3 teams in the Big Ten West or Big Ten East that are better than Iowa. So.
Okay, let's talk about another game in the Big Ten. Wisconsin, Minnesota. Wisconsin, all they had to do was win, and they're in the Big Ten Conference Championship game. They lose to Minnesota, 23-13. What's your take on that game?
Wisconsin needs a new quarterback. Graham Mertz was the Graham Mertz that I've seen in every single game except for his first game at Wisconsin. So, yeah, I mean, they had a golden opportunity to make it to the playoff and make it to like a New Year's Six bowl and everything, but
okay, talk to me about Bedlam.
It is not a good week for Oklahoma. It has not been a good week for Oklahoma.
Well, what happened in Bedlam?
Oklahoma State won. I mean,
okay,
Spencer Sanders, he's much maligned. People like to criticize him for his accuracy issues and things of that nature. But, he was able to move the ball with his feet. He was able to get the job done. He was incredibly tough, more precise than normal. He outplayed Caleb Williams. I think Oklahoma might have had different things on their mind, as it turns out, with they're losing their coach and a lot of their players and I think all of the recruits. So
they lost 6 recruits since the announcement that their coach was going to SC.
Yeah, and 6 good recruits.
Yes, and the question become: Will they go to Oklahoma State? Will they go to what teams will they go to?
Oh no, Lincoln Riley.
He's going to try to take him to USC.
He doesn't have to. The thing about it is, the funny thing is Lincoln Riley is great at recruiting Southern California. Like a lot of those recruits, I think like 4 or 5 of them were from the Southern California area.
That explains a lot.
That's why Oklahoma had so much vitriol. Like the Sooners fan base had so much vitriol and anger towards him. They think that he might have been playing this as like a get out.
Oh wow.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's talk quickly, JJ, about the games coming up this weekend, or some of the games. We mentioned Michigan being a 10.5 favorite over Iowa, and you picked Michigan to win that game. I think you already also picked the Oklahoma State-Baylor game. Oklahoma State is a 6.5 point favorite in that game, and you are picking.
If Bohannon's available, I'm definitely picking Baylor to cover and win straight up. Let me follow up on that. Okay. I'm gonna go with Baylor. I think I'll go with Baylor.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Alabama-Georgia game. Alabama is a 6-point dog. When the last time Alabama been a dog?
Probably been a while.
It's been a while. They're a 6-point dog, and over and under is 50. Does Alabama make it close? They keep it close.
Yeah, I do think that they will keep it close. I do think so. I think
that's a tough game to pick for me. I obviously think Georgia is a much better team, but I think Alabama will be ready. The only way they lose is that they just severely outclassed, and that may be the case. And then it didn't lose big. Not the only way they lose, but they lose big. Because Alabama, I have said it numerous times how Alabama has struggled, and I think Georgia will outclass them. But as Lou Holtz said a long time ago, you don't have to be the best team to win. You just got to play better that particular day. And so that's why, to me, that's a hard game to pick. Okay, JJ, the last game that we want to talk about next week is the Houston-Cincinnati. Houston is, 11-1. Cincinnati is 12-0. Cincinnati is a 10-point favorite. Is it possible Cincinnati can lose that game?
Oh, absolutely, it's possible.
Okay, what's your take on that game?
I think Cincinnati will win but won't cover.
They'll win but won't cover. Okay, JJ, I don't know.
Who do you pick?
I'm actually hoping Cincinnati win.
Yeah,
but I tell you, to throw up a lot of chaos would be a win by Houston and a win by Alabama.
You want to go full 2007 then?
I'm just saying, if those things happen, college playoff, it would be thrown into chaos. But you say that's what happened in 2007.
Well, the last time a 2-loss team won the national championship. You remember the weekend South Florida was supposed to go to the champion. Everyone
They lost the week off.
Yeah, every team that was ranked number 2 kept on like it was a revolving door of no one wanted to be ranked number 2 that year. South Florida didn't want it. West Virginia didn't want it. So LSU took it.
Okay, JJ. Let's talk about, before we close, and we're going to get ready to close tonight, let's talk about some coaching vacancies. There's Florida, there's LSU, there used to be USC, but now there's Oklahoma.
Yeah.
There's TCU.
Well, who's hired Sonny Dykes, right?
Oh, TCU has, oh, that's right.
SMU?
They did. So TCU hired they got the coach from SMU, so now there's SMU as a coaching vacancy. But let's talk about Florida, LSU, and Oklahoma.
Okay.
Those vacancies. Before we go there, Jay, I just want to, LSU is without a coach.
Yeah.
Even without a coach, it was been known weeks ago that their coach was gone. Yet and still, 24/7 has them as being the 3rd best recruiting team right now.
It's lucky for LSU that they are in Louisiana.
So how can a team without a coach, a head coach, be the number 3 rated recruiting team in the country?
Some recruits commit to a school and not a person.
Okay, and that's LSU. So with that on the table, this is my question to you. Between Florida, LSU, and Oklahoma, which is the better coaching gig?
Florida. I think Florida is the best coaching gig. I think LSU can be the best coaching gig, but you have to have the right mentality for it. It's a different place down there. But they're all about LSU. They're united in LSU. The propaganda is real. So it's easier to lock down that state and pick of the litter when it comes to recruiting in LSU. But everyone doesn't want to live in Louisiana. They have their Cajun flavor. I think it's different enough that Florida has the talent.
It's a lot more competition in the state of Florida for that talent than it is in Louisiana. Per capita, Louisiana got the talent.
There is, but...
Okay, JJ, because I know we're getting kind of late.
But I did want to touch on Oklahoma. I think that they're going to be decimated by this, like just by the number of recruits that they're already projected to lose and the number of transfers that are expected to follow Lincoln Riley to Hollywood. I think that they're going to be decimated. I've seen people on Twitter talk about how Lincoln Riley basically did the equivalent of gave them the death penalty with this, with the timing of everything, and the timing of it, and all the recruits that he's going to take with him. Oklahoma they will feel the ramifications of that.
Who will Oklahoma get to replace Mr. Riley?
Stoops.
That's who I was thinking. So we on the same page.
Well, which Stoops are you talking about?
You know what? And that's another question I was thinking about. Bob Stoops could come back again, or else they can take the guy from Kentucky. But I think either one of them will come, and I think that's going to be their primary target. Mm-hmm. So with Oklahoma having that, LSU still doesn't have a coach. Florida doesn't have a coach. JJ, I want to talk about a potential coach, and I'm going to do this quickly if I can.
Okay.
A guy who I would love to see coaching, and people had said he was going to be a candidate for the TCU coaching gig. I'm talking about Prime Time. One of the 2 best defensive players to ever play in the professional level. Coaching record this year is I think it's 10-1 or 11-1. Jackson State. I'm talking about none other than Deion Sanders. His recruiting class right now at Jackson State is rated the 55th best recruiting class by 24/7. I mean, he's ahead of a lot of Power 5 teams. He's ahead of Purdue. He's ahead of Kansas State. I can't remember all the teams he's ahead of, but he's recruiting. He's winning at Jackson State. He's getting fans in the stadium at Jackson State. And marketing, he specializes in marketing. Could LSU, Florida, go with Prime Time as their coach?
No, I don't think.
Oh, man. Go ahead. Tell me why.
I think those are 2 established programs. Those are 2 top 15 programs of all time. I think they're a little too aristocratic to give that to someone with that limited of sample size as a head coach. I think
his sample size is as large. No, no, not as large, but it's it's not that much different between his sample size and Michigan State's.
Well, LSU and Florida are a better job than Michigan State.
Okay, okay. Well, I just wanted to get that my take on it. Will prime time be at a major conference next year?
Next year, I mean that would. I think there are some openings that he would be a candidate for, but I think we still have to figure out is Lane Kiffin gonna leave Mississippi for? I know he wants LSU job, but for Oklahoma or something.
Well, Kiffin thinks he can get Manning at Mississippi, so he's.
We could probably get Manning at LSU too or Oklahoma.
I don't know. I don't know. You know, they got ties to Mississippi.
I know about Archie and Eli and everything, but
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. If I'm prime time, I wouldn't leave Jackson State to just take any job. I mean, he got something going on down there, and but that's it. But JJ, a great week ahead coming with the playoff games. I'm looking forward to those. You've given me your picks. I just want to hit on really quickly. I was really impressed by Michigan State's comeback win over Penn State. That bounced back from the thumping that they was given by Ohio State, and very, very impressive. I just wanted to bring that out there. Anything else, JJ, you want to talk about this week in sports?
no, I'm just really excited that the finish line is in sight.
All right. Hey, let's get out of here. Thank you for joining us. Sorry we kept you too long. Come back, listen to us again. Peace out. WPS. We'll pick Suey.
Who dat?
All right.